Okay, everybody, the official return to office date is July 15th. Finally. Oh, you're excited. Oh no, I quit.
So after over a year of being in a pandemic, working from home, people are just realizing that the office life really is not the vibe anymore. The reality is, you can get your work done from home and you can avoid the toxic work environment. If you had that, you don't really have to wear pants and you just have more control over your personal life. Now that things are loosening up again in terms of getting back into the office, there's a lot of pushback from people on if they're gonna do that or not. People have realized they don't need to commute to a building every day to meet their obligations. They're now focused on improving their quality of life and ensuring that their job isn't hindering that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Bria Jones. If you'd like to support my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell. If you're feeling extra generous, drop a comment, leave a thumbs up, and hey, watch as much of this video as you possibly can. It helps me out and I really appreciate it. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this new term called the Great Resignation, which is like insane to me. But this massive spike in unemployment now has a name, the Great Resignation. Google it, it's real. People are just not about it anymore. It really took a whole ass pandemic for people to prioritize flexibility, you know, more money, their mental health. It's like, YOLO, like we only got one life to live.
With the pandemic, I was kind of just like, it was a lot of reflection time. I know what I want out of my career, might as well just make the move.
40 hours a week of your life is a lot to not be happy. And look, I get it, not everybody can make the accommodations to do so, but that's not the point. People are clearly making the accommodations now. Listen to this, because 4 million people quit their jobs in April alone. 3.6 million in May quit alone. 3.9 million people quit their jobs in June alone. Alone, nearly 4 million people a month between April and June were quitting their jobs. And they were a part of the Great Resignation. So, I mean, you're looking at all the reasons why though. People are burnt out, mentally drained. We are just not built the same after this pandemic, and rightfully so. Things have to change. You know, this was kind of an awakening period for a lot of people.
People's mental health are so bad right now. Like, people are prioritizing that a lot more than like their jobs or anything else.
And I mean, think about it. We all had too much time to sit with our thoughts and really think about what matters to us. And in a way, obviously, the pandemic has been such a shitty thing, but I do have to say some of us are really coming out better from it. We're coming out better from it. We're reprioritizing things. Like, you just realize a lot of shit didn't matter anymore. This is a movement that I get like excited to hear about, because people are like, yeah, I'm unhappy and I'm not gonna take that anymore. Or yeah, like I wanna be with my family more. Like, I'm not gonna put them on the back burner anymore. Like, we've gotta figure out a way to make this work, and people are just fed up. And that's totally fair. Capitalism is just, it ain't built for happiness, I'll tell you that. So this mindset that like there's only one way to be successful, and like dedicating hours of your life to a job is like what you have to do is, I'm sorry, it's bullshit. If that's what makes you happy, that's fine, but that's not what makes everybody happy. And you know, I like to see that people are standing up for themselves with this Great Resignation. The crazy thing about this is, like, historically, when there's a lot of people quitting their jobs, that means like the economy is just like fucking thriving. But the funny thing is, that's not the case at all right now. Like, we're not in the best place ever, yet there are so many people quitting their jobs, which says a lot. And the interesting thing is, a lot of people that are quitting their jobs aren't going to other jobs because there's a massive shortage of employees right now, and we'll get into that, but they're going to work for themselves. And I'm like, yes, join me everyone. Yes. And that comes with a lot of downsides too, don't get me wrong. But I just found that so interesting that people are like, I want to work for myself. I want to do something that I'm passionate about and go in a direction that fits me more. And I think that's so great, you guys. It is hard. It is very hard. And I wish everyone who's doing that the most success. But I love this. This is like the coolest rebellion ever. So now that there's this massive shortage of employees, it's kind of this domino effect that's also causing there to be a lot of shortages in other areas. Like from furniture to Taco Bell items, companies are releasing statements like, hey, we don't know when we're gonna have this. We don't know if we can get this in stock again because we don't have employees to fulfill things. There's like shortage of truck drivers because there's a shortage of alcohol. The connections are crazy and you don't realize it, but when you don't have truck drivers, you're not getting production. There's no alcohol, so these truck drivers aren't getting what they need so they can do their routes, and the truck, which is scary. You shouldn't be drinking and driving. But this is what I read and this is what I researched. They're not getting their alcohol, so truck drivers aren't doing their jobs. And because of that, people aren't getting their supplies and products. So it's this like massive trickle down effect of shortages. It is like unfortunate because I'm kind of speaking more to the corporate side of the shortage, but we have to recognize that it's also bled into the service industry, restaurants, and a lot of different businesses don't have people to help them. And so what they're having to do is raise the wages like insanely. I read somewhere that there is like a sandwich maker making $20 an hour. I'm like, go off. I'll put a sandwich together, go off. But I mean, realistically, like not a lot of companies can even offer to accommodate to that level. So they're dealing with shortages within their companies, which for some of them could potentially lead to having to close shop. So it's really sad for some businesses that don't have the funds to accommodate for these gaps. Now they have to be really, really competitive and they've got to offer like hella benefits and up those wages. A lot of people are just reporting too that like them quitting their job has led them to get 3 times, 4 times their salary now because of this like competitiveness within the market and with employers. So go get that bread, honey. Go get that bread. On the flip side, going back to more of the corporate feel with this, there are some companies that are being a little bit more progressive with this idea because here's the thing. Some companies understand that they're gonna have to accommodate. This was a very transformative period for a lot of people, and like we're seeing, people are like, either you do this or you don't, or I'm out. So let's take capitalist billionaire monster Mark Zuckerberg for a second, okay? Here's the thing, rich people like money, but smart rich people understand that in order to be as successful as they want to be, you got to keep your employees happy. So Mark Zuckerberg just released this new accommodation for his employees, which basically allows them to have like a virtual reality setting where they could quite literally be in a meeting without being in a meeting with all of their coworkers, and it's like a virtual reality set.
It basically gives you the opportunity to sit around a table with people and work and brainstorm and whiteboard ideas. For people who can't be there through virtual reality, they can just video conference in, so you can include everyone. But it's this pretty amazing experience where you feel like you're really right there with your colleagues.
I am impressed. I will say I'm impressed, but also, is this a Black Mirror episode? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, I think that this option, it should be an option personally because people have different priorities. There are some people who rightfully so operate better in an office setting. And I think this whole like virtual reality thing could be like very much so the new wave if companies can afford to do something like that, because you're technically still getting an office feel, but in a fake ass way. I don't know, that's why it's so Black Mirror to me. But there are people who thrive in an office. Like my dad, for example, that guy loves going into the office. Like he loves to put on his fancy pants, go into the office and hey Bill, like he lives for that. Me, on the other hand, being his spawn, I could not be more opposite of him when it comes to that. I would rather be working with my butt cheeks out and feeling a breeze on my back. So I'm cool with it. I don't need the office small talk. I don't need a, hey Susan, nope, don't care, I'm good. Everyone's different though. So here are some pros to working from home. The commute to work on average is 26 minutes, and you multiply that times 5 days a week, but you gotta go round trip, so multiply that again times 2. That's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of minutes, okay? But also gas money. Did you know that on a yearly basis, people are spending on their commute about $2,000 to $5,000 on gas. You got me all the way fucked up. That's a lot of money, y'all. And that does matter. That makes a huge difference. So if you can, like, why wouldn't you want to save a little gas money, right? My favorite one, also, no small talking in the office. I gotta say, my least favorite part about having a corporate job when I did was small talk. I had like people I really did enjoy talking to, but you know, when you're just like making your oatmeal in the kitchen and you're just trying to wake up and then you're like, oh, like, how was your weekend? It was fine, okay? Like, can we not right now? But you can't say that, okay? You can't say that. And I'm just saying what people are thinking, so you can get mad at me if you want. I don't have a corporate job anymore, but small talk was really hard for me. I can't forget the Starbucks runs, guys. I don't know about you, but when I had a job, I stopped at Starbucks like a lot. Whether that's Starbucks or whatever coffee run you're making, it was my little piece of serotonin during those days. I was not happy in an office environment, and that's just my truth. I had to hype myself up with an expensive little frappuccino that's basically a milkshake in the morning because it brought me joy. It brought me joy, and that's okay. But when you're not running back and forth to the office, you're not so inclined and tempted to get that unnecessary drink that you could probably make at home, but we won't go there. We won't go there. You're more accessible to family members, okay? You can make them more of a priority. Who doesn't want to make their family a priority? I hope you want to make your family a priority. But realistically, living in a capitalist society, it makes it hard when 40 hours plus of your week have to go to making sure that you can survive and pay for keeping your family healthy and safe and all the things. But of course, people would want to spend more time with their kids, most likely, and spouse or whatever. You also have more flexibility and time to invest in yourself. If I didn't have to commute to work, I probably would have had more time to work out, you know, do a meditation. Like, I have to be honest, I wasn't doing all those things religiously when I was working a corporate job because I didn't have the time. I had so many things to do. I had to drive about 40 minutes with traffic to get to the office. So investing in myself, but also making sure I felt well rested, it was a hard thing to do, even if I did get up at like 5 a.m. But realistically, when I started working for myself, I dictated my schedule and I made it a priority that, hey, before I start my day, I'm gonna make sure that I work out. I'm gonna make sure that I meditate and journal and do all these things to clear my head before I start my day. And it was like, it's such a blessing, but I understand that that's a privilege. Not everyone can, you know, have the time to do all these things to make sure that they feel their best. And so it's nice working from home to kind of have a little more time before you clock in to do a couple things for yourself or for your household. This one actually surprised me. So productivity is actually a pro with working from home. And you would think like maybe not, but the thing is, people don't necessarily need the 40 hours in a week to get their job done. They're getting their work done, but they're just not being micromanaged and nobody's looking over your shoulder, so you don't need to feel like you need to constantly be busy. So maybe you're getting your work done quicker. But here's a stat for you. ProtoScore reports an increase in productivity by 47% since March of 2020 compared to April 2019. That's wild. That's actually crazy. I don't operate well being micromanaged. I feel like when someone's micromanaging me, I actually mess up more.
I'm literally sitting here looking like a whole ass mess on my computer, doing my work and doing better quality work than I've ever done in my entire life. I'm also really fortunate to work for a small marketing agency that doesn't expect to ever have an office space because they believe in the power of remote work. I saw somebody comment on another one of these kinds of videos that the only reason they want you back in the office is so that managers have something to do because they're the ones without actual work to do.
For me, it was like such a great thing whenever I could work from home because I did have a couple opportunities to do that when I was like corporate, and I always did so much better, but it was like when someone was over me that I would just really drop the ball. So there are obviously some cons to working from home as well. Like accountability can definitely be something that is hard to do because like I said, some people can be okay without the micromanaging stuff, but other people might need a little push. My fiance is a manager, so I understand his frustration sometimes with some people just don't take initiative to get things done. And it puts him in an awkward place to have to be like, hey, did you get this done? So I know like not every employee just is gonna do it. Another con could be that it is isolating. And this is just something I've struggled with, like working from home myself. Like obviously I don't have employees working for me like here. I don't have an assistant or anything yet, maybe in the future. But I think that one thing I really struggle with is isolation. And when you're like super creative and always in your head and just not having someone to bounce ideas off of, it kind of creates like a toxic cycle and this bad mental loop. At least for me, I kind of had to work through some negative thought patterns that I had developed from working from home. And it was really just because I was really hard on myself and I didn't have anyone reassuring me that I was doing a good job. So I just assumed I wasn't. So it can be really hard for some people if you feel like you might need a little bit of feedback here and there. And kind of tying into the isolation, like work culture can be really fun sometimes. And that's why I feel like maybe saying that it should be an option rather than like mandatory is better, because I feel like we might all be on a spectrum of how much office time we need. There are people like my dad who are like, every day I'm gonna come in with my fancy pants and say hi to Bill. But then there are people like me who maybe are like right here on the spectrum. Like I'm good at home, but every now and then I'll come in and say what's up. Like maybe on Fridays when there's the work happy hour. I wanna see some faces here and there. The other bad thing is that the physical separation between home and workspace kind of gets blurred. And that's another thing I really had to work through being someone who works from home as an entrepreneur, because my boundaries get very blurred. Like I should stop working at a certain time every day, and then it's like family time. And I try to do that, but it's hard because there's a lot of different factors that play into that for me, especially working in social media. But oftentimes like my home feels like work, and that's a weird feeling to have. Another con could be that it's really easy to misread cues when you're working virtually. And that's why I used that example earlier. Like there's jokes on TikTok about how people will damn near have a panic attack and their day is completely ruined if someone replies like sure. That it fucks me up when someone does that to me. I've literally had someone do that to me recently, and I like didn't reply after because I was like, okay, they're mad at me. You know, it gets misinterpreted sometimes through punctuation, and I don't know if this is more of a thing with women, but sometimes the cues can be off when you're just constantly sending emails here and there. So it's just important to not take that stuff personal and always assume the best, because that will just be better for your mental health. If you have a really cool office, another con could be that you're just not gonna get in-office perks. I will say I used to work at one place that had kombucha on tap, and that was really dope, okay? I was living my best life. That was basically why I took the offer, if I'm being honest. Some offices, they probably don't offer like a whole lot. Maybe they have a Keurig or something and you're like, I'm good. You got your Nespresso at home, like you're thriving. You're like, I don't miss it at all. But some people, maybe that's an incentive to them. And then I would say another con is like, if you live in a chaotic home, then maybe working from home isn't the best for you. Personally, I can work from home here. It's me, AJ, and Bubby, and we're all pretty chill for most part, but it does get a little difficult if AJ's working from home and he's on a phone call and I'm trying to record a video. Like I gotta wait, so my productivity kind of starts to slump. So yeah, like you kind of have to find this tango if everyone's gonna work from home in your house. But also like I cannot imagine working from home with kids. Like God bless. I know that is probably really hard, and some of those people for sure might be like the office is just better, or like a WeWork or something. Bottom line is this whole Great Resignation is really interesting to me, and I just wanted to touch on it and also hear from you guys. Like, have any of you quit your jobs recently? Are you still working from home? Like, what's the vibe for you right now? Let me know in the comments, because I'm curious to see like among people like you what the mood is right now. I think it'll be interesting to see like over the next few years how this is actually going to play out, if more companies are going to be accommodating, or does this mean that like is the service industry going to resort to like robots since they can't get people? There's a lot of what ifs and hypotheticals that could happen now that we've gone through this pandemic and people are just kind of like over it. So let me know what you think. Again, thanks for tuning into this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys next week.